Well, welcome to another episode of National Divorce Talk Raw. This will be a relatively short episode. We wanted to show you a clip from Crystal Ball. She's a reporter that works at Breaking Points News, and she basically had a talking point that sounds a lot like the stuff we say here at CalExit. In addition, we'll point out how Joe Biden is like Barack Obama and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in that they're willing to lie to you about how they will take away your domestic rights. We'll cover that in just a second. But as always, take a look at this. Welcome to another episode of National Divorce Talk Raw. I'm your host, Mark Ruiz-Evans. Well, Crystal Ball does a show with a guy called Saagar Enjeti. The show's called Breaking Points. It's a news show. It covers the news, but not from a mainstream angle. I'm going to show you what Crystal Ball said about how she thinks America's doomed and it's over, given the political division that she sees in the country. And then we'll show you some new facts that perhaps you didn't know before that would basically back up Miss Ball's analysis. Let's get right into it. Let me show you what she's talking about. So this is Crystal Ball on the left case against the January 6th Commission. Let's take a listen to what she's saying.
Well, guys, over the weekend, 30-some members of a white nationalist group were arrested after packing into the back of a U-Haul wearing matching uniforms, toting riot shields and at least one smoke grenade, and headed to a pride event. Last week, a man called 911 on himself after showing up at a Supreme Court justice's house with a gun, a knife, zip ties, and, according to himself, an intent to murder. Set over a looming abortion decision and gun debates fueled his crazed actions. And this week, hearings will continue into the events of January 6th, when thousands of conspiracy-addled Trump supporters stormed in the Capitol with violent delusions of overturning the lawful election results of 2020. Now listen, every era has their wrongdoers, their villains, their criminals, the conspiracy theorists, their cranks, their chaos agents, all of that. But it's kind of hard to deny, looking at the landscape, that the American project is coming apart at the seams. Taken together with 100 other signs that I could point to, these are dispatches from a fracturing nation. Try to take a step back from the details of the riots and the rise in political violence and the existential cultural battles. Try to view all of this as if you were an outside observer or, say, a historian. It's really not hard to figure out what's going on that has led us to this point of precarious rupture. The middle class has been hollowed out. Inequality.
Okay, let's go to this point where she explains a little bit more about what she's saying. Here you go.
Act urgently. We are headed in a truly dire direction. January 6th is a symptom. And when you're dealing with a grave illness, you do deal with the symptoms. Don't get me wrong. We've done some of that.
Notice in the title bar, it says failing state. That means America.
This department has charged some 800 people. Media outlets have dug into the details of what transpired, compiling footage into montages of the most violent and menacing acts of the day. The government's laying out in detail what some of the main instigators from the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys did to help instigate the lawlessness. But what you've really got to focus your energy on is the root of the problem. And it's really not complicated. The problem is a wildly unfair distribution of resources. America has always gotten away with a higher level of inequality than other countries because, frankly, we have a lot of powerful mythology around our meritocracy and the American dream. We convinced people that if they were struggling, it was because of their own failing, not a problem that required collective action and government redress. This was as much of a fairy tale story as the mythology of, like, divine right or of the caste system. All human inventions to explain radically unfair distributions of wealth and income. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty who believe in the powerful American fairy tale still. But after the banks destroyed the economy and got bailed out and regular Americans got the shaft, it became a lot harder not to see through those layers of bullshit that we've been fed for years. So that's why I do roll my eyes a little bit at the January 6th hearings. Where is this energy for the corporate criminals jacking up prices just because they can? Where's this level of political outrage and the 20 million viewers for the Wall Street villains buying up entire communities and pushing more people onto the street? Where is the multimedia production for the crooks who knowingly profited off of creating a mass addiction epidemic? Or the fossil fuel executives who've known for decades about the climate crisis and
Basically, what Crystal's getting at is that America is able to do an investigation on the January 6th insurrection, which I support. Great. But Why can't you deal with corruption in Washington, D.C.? Why can't you deal with representatives getting billions of dollars in stock? Why can't you deal with the banks collapsed the economy and got bailed out? Why can't you deal with war crimes in Afghanistan, war crimes in Iraq, war crimes in Libya? Why can't you deal with any number of issues that happen to deal with life here? You can get an investigation on the January 6th coup, but you can't get an investigation into lying to the people on weapons of mass destruction under George W. Bush, lying to the people about domestic spying under Obama, getting people into the situation in Afghanistan, and then lying to them through 3 different presidencies about that and getting multiple people killed. In addition to why can't we have an investigation on the origins of, all the mistakes made with the COVID rollout by both administrations, and why can't we have war crimes tribunals? So you can only investigate certain things, but not others. And that kind of shows that America is not actually interested in justice. This is the highest form of justice it can provide, was this January 6th committee. And it's really hollow because they're only looking at one thing and saying, that's the problem, and ignore all the rest of this other stuff. When we have the most polarized climate now, when we have the most wealth taken away from the middle class through the pandemic, housing crisis, and the recession, when America is the most hated on the world stage, we can't have investigations or discussions about that, but we can have one where one party attacks another party. And again, I think it was an insurrection too, and I like the investigation, but why is that the only thing we're ever going to get justice on when there's so many other things that are unjust? A system that cannot bring justice for all of these items is a system that is unjust itself, and that's why Crystal Ball calls it a failed state. A couple more things you should know. These are just signs of the time. Let me show you this.
What are you looking at?
While Washington was focused on January 6th, once again, another scandal has actually been floating under the surface, one which the press seemingly has no real interest in, and one which is of actually great concern to millions of Americans. The Disinformation Governance Board, which at one point was headed by Nina Jankowicz, you'll remember her as the cringe theater kid TikToker in charge of the Biden Ministry of Truth, whose work was quote-unquote put on pause after a lot of public outcry. Now, we thought that matter was settled, but new documents leaked by a whistleblower actually reveal the gaslighting the administration was doing at the time about how the board would not be censoring domestic political matters and would focus on foreign disinformation. Those are now revealed as outright lies. New documents show us that the Disinformation Governance Board actually sought a meeting with Twitter on April 28th to ask them to, quote, become involved in the project. The meeting was planned between the board and one Yoel Roth. Now, Roth is the executive at Twitter who, along with the Twitter Trust and Safety team, who made the call to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story in October of 2020.
So the Biden administration said they were going to do a ministry of truth in order to fight Russian disinformation. And what Sagar is pointing out is that they lied, and they were also going to start saying that domestically produced news was fake or not. They said they were going to fight against foreign disinformation when actually they were going to start censoring domestic content, meaning you're an American citizen, you have no tie to a foreign government, but they'll make sure that your post doesn't get posted and no one gets to hear what you say. Ministry of Truth. They did not say they were going to do that, and now it's coming out that that is actually what they intended to do, was start to censor domestic Americans when they told you they would not do that. That's under Joe Biden. Don't be so surprised. Remember when Obama told everybody that the government isn't spying on them, and then it turned out that the NSA was spying on everybody, and Obama outright lied to our face, and we were spied in an unconstitutional manner? Well, it's even worse than when it was exposed in 2014. It's as bad as it could be. But, don't get surprised there because, here's the Democrats with the Squad, even progressive members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, aka the Squad, aka AOC, voted to extend the Patriot Act, which is the one that says they can spy on you against your rights. And here's the article pointing out how, maybe the Squad didn't back up the first version of the bill, but they didn't really fight that hard to get it changed. And when it came time to a floor vote, only 2 of them did it. Not even AOC was around to push back. So basically, they'll talk a big game about being progressive, but when it comes down to actually stopping domestic spying and taking away your rights, the squad won't really do a whole lot. And Obama will lie to your face. And Biden will try to domestically censor your viewpoints and lie to your face about it. And maybe that's why Crystal's saying that America's a failed state. See how it all fits together? Think about that. The American ship is sinking. Do you want to go down with it? Or would you perhaps like to sail away on a raft and keep your family afloat? That's the decision you'll be making soon. We'll see you next time.